This is not a shed. It's the interior of an Airbnb that I'm staying at in Athens, Georgia. There's a lot that's unfamiliar about this space, including the sound of the space. In this video, I want to talk a little bit about room reverb, the sound of physical spaces, and how you might use that sound in your recordings. Now, as its name suggests, room sound is the sound of the room interacting with a sound source. Like, in this case, the sound of my voice. If I move this voice to different rooms, it will sound different. And most people who record music view the ambient sound of a room as something to be avoided, as a plague on what would otherwise be good, crisp, clean, dry recordings. But I don't really feel that way, and it's partly out of necessity because I have never recorded in a space that would be characterized as a good room. I don't normally make recordings in a closet like this, but I've often made them in a bedroom, or in a bathroom, or in a kitchen. And in some cases, I record in these spaces out of necessity because I don't have anywhere else to go. But with time, I found myself interested in the sounds of these different kinds of rooms. Whether I'm recording a voice or a guitar or a drum, they can give the sound a certain amount of liveliness and naturally space and depth. So why would someone go to the effort of using a reverb plugin when chances are you're surrounded by places that could give you a natural reverb sound? It's because people aren't happy with those natural reverb sounds for a variety of reasons, some of which are really good. And that's why for decades, people have been doing everything they could to record clean, dry sounds, i.e. sounds that don't have any natural room reverb attached to them. You want to avoid something like this. And instead hear something like this. That wasn't totally dry, but it was drier, and the idea is that when you record a dry sound, it makes it easier to mix. There are fewer artifacts that could interfere with the sounds of other instruments or the sound of your instrument. It makes it easier to apply effects in post, blah, blah, blah. But you lose something along the way, and that is the sound of something in a physical space. Our ears have evolved to tell us a lot of really valuable information about the world around us based on what kinds of reflections we hear. This may sound pseudo-scientific, but on some level I have to believe that we like those sounds. A sound that's too dry can seem unnatural, almost sterile. Of course, you can compensate for that by putting a sound through an echo chamber, or through a plate, or through a spring, or through some digital reverb, but it's obviously not going to be the same. Now, it might actually be better to apply those kinds of unnatural reverbs to sounds, but I kind of like the idea of using natural reverb sounds when you have them, including because it just makes your life easier as a music maker and cheaper. I mean, room treatments are expensive. So over time, I've decided to embrace the sound of natural room reverbs and let them become an integral part of what I'm recording. That's actually what I've been doing here in this house. I didn't come to Athens to record, but in this unfamiliar space, thinking about the way it sounded, I thought that I would do a little bit of recording. I brought along this handy, literally handy, Zoom H1N and my acoustic guitar, and I've been taking them from room to room recording basic acoustic guitar tracks for the songs that are going to be on an EP that'll come out at some point. And before doing any real tracking, I took them into each room and played little samples and listened back to those samples to think which rooms have the deepest or the brightest or the darkest natural reverb sound. And then I've tried to make kind of creative associations between those observations and the songs I'm trying to track. For example, I just recorded the acoustic guitar for a song that I think is going to be called Stay. It used to be called Miss Daisy. The lyrics aren't final, so all of this is subject to change. I recorded it like right in the center of that room over there because that's the space where the sound was the most lively, and it is a fairly lively song. I hope those things mesh together and support each other in the final recording and make it feel as lively as I want it to feel. Some of you are thinking, Jordan, there's also going to be all these problems because you've got this massive room reverb all over your sound. And I guess I'm fine with that. In fact, I'm ready to work around it. I can make decisions in the way that I mix this acoustic guitar track or in the way that I record and mix my other tracks so that everything sounds as good as possible together with and in a way in spite of the room reverb. I view those kind of problem-solving decisions as creative decisions, and as a result, they're exciting. They're just challenges that I have to face as I go about recording a song. And they do ultimately help define how the song sounds. So it forever will be associated with this little Airbnb, with the time and place when I decided it's time to record these songs. All of that sounds good to me, and maybe it helps explain why I have decided to do tracking in some very live rooms. They're also very hot. As an aside, I had to turn off window units so I didn't have the sound of AC in all of these recordings, so I'm gonna plug them back in and go about the rest of my day. But I hope this video is interesting for you and maybe even inspires you to just use the sound of the rooms that you are in, maybe that you're in every single day, and make them a part of what you decide to record. Or you can save your money to reserve a dead space or to turn one or all of your rooms into dead spaces. Ultimately, you do you. I suppose tell me what you do in the comments. As always, I appreciate your time. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you around.